94.5 FM.
Court nullifies passage of Rivers State 2024 budget orders, then orders Governor Fubara to present. The court sitting in the nation's capital, Abuja, nullified the passage of Rivers State budget by Adesina Ehi. Justice Omotosho recognized Martin Anowuru as the authentic speaker of the Rivers State Assembly. Good afternoon and welcome to Political Views on Ebonade 103.5 FM. I am Martin Epanshuku Ekezie. The crisis in Rivers State is taking another turn as the former governor of Rivers State a couple of days ago warned President Tinubu over Wike's presence in his government. The Inspector General of Police has been ordered to give protection to Martin Anowuru as the speaker, the authentic speaker of Rivers State Assembly. The court ruled that deploying of the clerk and the deputy clerk by the governor Fubara is null and void. Meanwhile, the Senate will summon Wike over insecurity in Abuja as a result of the rise in kidnapping activities. A lot to talk about on this particular edition of Political Views on Ebon at the 103.5 FM. So let's get right into it. Let me bring you up to speed on the happenings. The headlines. Stop targeting our politicians in corruption probe. Northern groups warn EFCC. How Buhari did Nnamdi Kanu a favor. Adesina. Tinubu reflecting Nigeria's diversity in appointments. Akume. Need for credible patriotic opposition. Experts harp on participation of citizens in community development. Enugu residents beg Governor Mba to halt demolition. For subsidy removal, hardship persists 5 months after 72 billion naira palliatives. Nnamdi Kanu family laments non-release of CTC by Supreme Court. Borno gets first elected female local government chair as APC wins all 27 states. National Air Force airstrikes neutralize notorious terrorist Janari gang in Kaduna. Now, details. Stop targeting our politicians in corruption probe. Northern Group wants EFCC. The two prominent northern groups have issued a strong warning to the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC) against what they perceive as a bias against northern politicians in recent corruption investigations. The Northern Elders Progressive Forum (NEPF) and the Northern Professionals Development Group (NPDG) expressed their concerns in a joint communique following a two-day meeting on national issues. The group took specific issue with a recent report in the Punch newspaper titled EFCC Revives 13 Ex-Governors, 772 billion naira fraud cases, which listed several northern politicians among those facing corruption allegations. The communique signed by the NEPF chairman Dr. Usman Sani and read by MPDG Secretary Comrade Yusuf Abubakar Dingijadi stated, "We are dismayed with the recent reports and publication by a newspaper that titled EFCC Revives 13 Ex-Governors 772 billion naira fraud cases in which it published the names of certain political leaders and individuals with alleged accusations of amassing public wealth illegally without recourse to the due process and rule of law. The publication has now become a big embarrassment to them, their families, political associates, and our dear nation in the quest for objectivity, a presumption of innocent, emotional, and moral psyches. And we think that certain groups of political classes, because of vendetta or other reasons, are cheaply using some media platform to drag the anti-graft agency image into disrepute to achieve cheap and unpopular political scores. While appreciating the EFCC efforts in the fight against corruption, the groups cautioned against allowing the commission to become a tool for political vendettas. They noted concerns about certain political individuals using media platforms to tarnish the image of personalities, potentially eroding the EFCC's objectives, and urged the EFCC leadership to denounce the publication and assure that investigations are not influenced by political motives. The groups recommended that EFCC, other petitioners, and individuals making accusations to publicly sign a commitment to pay compensation if those accused are found innocent after investigation and court proceedings. And the next story we have for you this afternoon, how Buhari did Nnamdi Kanu a favor. Adesina. Femi Adesina, a former spokesperson to the immediate past president of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari, has disclosed that Buhari chose to bring back the leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra to face trial in the country when the government had the option of eliminating him at his hidden place. Adesina will reveal this in the book, Reflection of a Special Advisor, Media and Publicity 2015 to 2023, unveiled in Abuja last week, described the president's decision as a favor. Adesina narrated how a group known as Highly Respected Igbo Grace, led by Mbazulika Amaechi, a First Republic Minister of Aviation, pleaded with the former president to release Kanu. Buhari said the federal government on his watch had the option to eliminate Kanu, but it was thought that bringing him back to Nigeria to face trial was the best option for all parties. In the past 6 years, I have developed a system in which I don't interfere with the judiciary, Buhari said. Let him make his case in court instead of giving a terrible impression of the country from our side. That was why, in the case of Kanu, I said the best way to subject him to the system. I feel it is a favor to give him, Kanu, that opportunity. Government could have mobilized to eliminate him where he was, but we did not do that. You have made an extremely difficult demand on me as the leader of this country. The implication of your request is very serious. In the last 6 years, nobody will say I have controlled the judiciary. We are developing a country and we have to go through the pains. The demand you have made is heavy, but I will consider it, and I am glad to know you closely at this time. Kanu was extradited to Nigeria in 2021 after he jumped bail and fled the country, following his arraignment for alleged terrorism, treasonable felony, and incitement. Still on the happenings on our political space this afternoon, Tinubu reflecting Nigeria's diversity in appointments. Akume. Secretary to the Government of the Federation, SFG, Senator George Akume, has said President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has recognized the diversity of Nigeria and carefully harnessed it for the unity, stability, and progress of the country. Akume stated this in his remarks at the Thanksgiving Mass organized in his honor by the St. Augustine's TP Catholic Community, Archdiocese of Abuja, held at the SS Peter and Paul Parish, Nyanya, in Abuja yesterday. He said President Tinubu's recognition of diversity is being reflected in the appointments in his administration, such as that of the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Taradid Labaja, and himself, the SSG, the SGF, among others. Akume, who is a Catholic Knight of the Order of St. John International, called on all faithful to pray for the president to succeed, noting that the present administration had inherited a porous economy but is putting measures in place to address the country's challenges, while admitting that when diversity is carefully harvested, it becomes the source of strength. He said, "My Lord, we recognize our diversity. Permit me to make this comment briefly that the president of this country, His Excellency Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, recognizes this diversity. He showed it when he was the governor of Lagos, and he is showing it at the national level. It reflects in the appointments he has made so far: Chief of Defense Staff, Chief of Army Staff, Secretary to the Government of the Federation, and so on and so forth." Still on the stories making rounds our political space this afternoon, experts harp on participation of citizens in community development. Apparently moved by concerted efforts by communities to mobilize their sons and daughters to raise funds for developmental projects in their communities, Osun State Governor Ademola Adeleke has promised Osun traditional rulers of his support for such laudable gatherings. Speaking at a meeting with the state council, speaking at the meeting with the State Council of Obas in Oshobo, Adeleke pledged his support for days of such gatherings chosen by communities across the state, stating that such annual gatherings helped many communities to collaborate with government in areas of infrastructural development. Speaking in the same vein, former Provost, Federal College of Education, Oyo, Dr. Olufemi Adeniyi from Osun State, noted that government cannot meet the needs of every community, hence the need for communities to identify their needs and work towards achieving them. He emphasized a need for traditional rulers of various communities to mobilize and motivate their natives both at home and in diaspora towards giving back to their communities. Prince Adeni, who said traditional rulers have roles to play in the development of their various communities, noted that the era of monarchs staying in their palaces expecting largesse is over. He added that the overall development of their communities must be their goal. Also speaking, a professor of urban and regional planning, Professor Babatunde Abula, charged Nigerians, particularly those from rural communities, to develop interest in the growth and development of their communities. Professor Abula, who is the president, Meshinwa Supreme Club, Ikinwa, noted with satisfaction the efforts he, alongside his compatriots in his community, made to produce a master plan he claimed as yielding fruitful dividend for his community. The widely traveled scholar remarked that beautiful towns and villages found abroad were not made from heaven, but due to the resolve of government and communities to have and live in an environment conducive to human habitation. Along also speaking, a community leader, Pastor Nathaniel Adeyemi, insisted that collaborations between government and communities transcends infrastructural development. According to him, students of Ikinwa Iponda Grammar School were able to excel in their academic performance through the support of parents and indigents of the two communities that hired teachers to support government appointees. Still on our political space this afternoon, Enugu residents beg Governor Mba to halt demolition. Residents of Enugu have appealed to Enugu State Governor Peter Mba to stop further demolition at Centenary Estate. Some of them who spoke on condition of anonymity appealed to the governor to intervene and stop further demolition. Although some of them commended the government for its intervention in the area allegedly used for kidnapping, they said not all the houses were involved in the evil act. They urged the government to look into the papers of all the owners of the properties in the estate and ascertain those who are occupying the areas illegally. It will be recalled that the police arrested some suspected kidnappers in some parts of the area. The government had explained that it was only demolishing illegal occupants of the area. And the next story we have for you this afternoon: fuel subsidy removal. Hardship persists 5 months after 72 billion naira palliatives. The 36 state governments received a total sum of 72 billion naira from the federal government in August 2023 to provide palliatives for the people following the hardship occasioned by the removal of fuel subsidy. However, 5 months after the funds were released, the state governors are yet to account for the money or show any evidence of how it was utilized. The palliatives were meant to cushion the effects of the removal of fuel subsidy on the people, especially the vulnerable ones. However, reports suggest that the funds have been largely mismanaged, misappropriated, or diverted by the state governments. The people are still faced with hardship as they struggle to make ends meet amid high cost of foods and services and rising inflation. The situation is worse now than it was 5 months ago when the federal government released the first tranche of the palliatives worth 72 billion naira. The country's inflation rate is now at 28.9% according to figures from the National Bureau of Statistics. The lack of transparency as well as improper utilization of the funds by the state governors has led to widespread criticisms from members of the public who are calling for accountability. The situation has sparked outrage and demands for action from the federal government to hold the state governors accountable and ensure that the funds are used for the intended purpose. As the country continues to battle economic hardship, it is imperative that the state governments prioritize the welfare of the people and ensure that the palliatives provided by the federal government and other funds are not misused or diverted. The people deserve to know the truth about the whereabouts of the funds and the actions taken by the elected leaders to alleviate their sufferings. Newsmen had in December 2023 written to the 36 state governments to inquire about the 2 billion naira they each received from the federal government in August last year to help alleviate the economic hardship that most Nigerians were facing due to the removal of fuel subsidy. We Inquiries were made in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act, asking them to provide us with a detailed account of how the money was spent because we, we were eager to ascertain how the money was spent towards helping those most in need. But 6 weeks after, most of the state governments have failed to respond to the inquiry, not even acknowledging the receipt of the letter. Only 4 state governments has so far responded. In Oshun, the State Commissioner for Information and Public Enlightenment, Oluomo Kolapo Alimi, explained that the 2 billion naira received by the state was disbursed for food palliatives, transport services, and refurbishment of the health centers. Alimi stated that for transparency and in line with Governor Ademola Adeleke's commitment to meeting the needs of the people, a committee consisting of stakeholders across labor, religious, civil society organizations, student body, market men and women, among others, handled the distribution of food items across the local governments of the state. According to him, the distribution at local level and by extension, the teaming beneficiaries were also handled by stakeholders under local government council monitoring. In Benue State, the Commissioner for Information, Culture and Tourism, Matthew Abo, disclosed that out of the 5 billion naira proposed as palliative to cushion the effect of subsidy removal on Benue citizens, the state government has been able to assess only 2 billion of WAEC and NECO examination for graduating students in all government-approved secondary school across the state for the 2023-2024 academic year, which is ongoing. Provision of intensive computer and ICT training for 10,000 youths of the state to enable them acquire jobs within and outside the state, with training ongoing, provisions of grants to 5,000 women in the state based on revised social register of the women cooperatives, etc. Meanwhile, Kwara State government has so far received 2 billion naira, being the first tranche of the 4 billion naira of the federal government palliative. The chief press secretary to the state governor, Rafiu Ajakaye, revealed. He said with that, the government purchased and distributed at least 250,000 10 kg bags of rice across the state. This was done through a non-partisan committee headed by a commissioner of police and people by community and religious leaders. Similarly, the government received 1 billion naira worth of maize from the CBN. This is not free. The maize was then distributed to the general public, especially poultry farmers, at 50% subsidized rates. On its part, the Delta State government said the rice was distributed to the people from the local government level down to the community level. He said the aged, people living with disabilities, and the vulnerable households were all captured. According to the secretary to the state government, Dr. Kinsley Emu, the 696 bags of rice were distributed along the Delta State Independent Electoral Commission was comprising 20 wards in each of the 25 local government areas of the state. He said farmers were advised not to pay money to anybody for the palliatives, saying that all genuine farmers receive their share of maize and fertilizers without hitches. Still on the stories making rounds at political space this afternoon, Nnamdi Kanu family laments non-release of CTC by Supreme Court. The family of the leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, has decried the Supreme Court's delay in the release of the certified true copy (CTC) of his ruling on Kanu's matter. The Supreme Court had on December 15, 2023, set aside the ruling of the appeal court, which had, in its earlier verdict, set the IPOB leader free from the terrorism charges slammed against him by the federal government. The appeal court ruled that instead, Kanu should be tried at the appropriate court. The head of the Kanu families, Kanunta Kanu, said in a statement that the non-release of the CTC of the ruling by the Supreme Court was jeopardizing further legal moves the family could have taken. Kanu said discreet investigations carried out by the family revealed that the justices of the Apex Court who sat on the matter were yet to append their signatures on the judgment more than 4 weeks after it was delivered. He wondered why the justices of the federal court, why the justices of the Supreme Court who sat on their son's matter would allow the normal 14-day period to elapse without signing the judgment. The family, Kanu said, was smelling a rat in the whole delay, adding that the unlawful withholding of the CTC in the case of the IPOB leader showed that Nigeria cannot obey her treaty obligations, which he said amounted to official terrorism. Unlawfully withholding the CTC in the case of Nnamdi Kanu has confirmed that Nigeria will not obey her treaty obligations. Quoting Section 2, Subsection 3, Subsection F of the Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Act 2022, Kanu reiterated that in this act of terrorism means an act willfully performed with the intention of furthering an ideology, whether political, religious, or racial, or ethnic, and which violates the provisions of any international treaty or resolution to which Nigeria is a party, subject to the provisions of Section 12 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 and Cap C23 LFN 2004. The extended Kanu family therefore urged the Supreme Court to release the CTC of its judgment on Kanu's case to enable them to shop for other options. Still on the stories making rounds at political space this afternoon, Kanu gets first elected female local government chair as APC wins all 27 seats. The All Progressive Congress APC has won the chairmanship and 312 councillorship positions in all the 27 local government areas of Borno State. This is as APC candidate in Jere, local government area of the state. Ina Galadima has been declared chairman-elect, making her the first female to be elected local government council chairman in the state. Ina Galadima, a one-time commissioner and special advisor, was declared the winner of the election by the returning officer of Jere local government area, Professor Muhammad Kunto. Kunto said Galadima scored 110,459 votes to defeat her closest rival and candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, who scored 2,478 votes. Meanwhile, the executive chairman of the Borno State Independent Electoral Commission, Alhaji Lawan Maina, has announced the overall results of the Saturday's local government elections on Sunday in Maiduguri, the state capital. He said, following the conduct of the election on Saturday, today we have received the results from the 27 local government areas, and as empowered by the law under Section 10, in my position as the chief returning officer of the state, I read out the results as follows. The ruling party, APC, won all the 27 local government chairmen in the state. Equally, the ruling party has won all the 312 council members' councillorship in all the wards of the state. With this, we have come to the end of this exercise and certified representation to the winners will be made at a later date to be announced soon, he stated. And the next story we have for you this afternoon: National Air Force air strikes and neutralized notorious terrorist January gang in Kaduna. The Nigerian Air Force has successfully neutralized notorious terrorist leader January and his criminal gang in airstrikes conducted near Gada Kataku, Ibabi, local government area of Kaduna State. January and his cohorts were responsible for terrorizing communities and carrying out numerous kidnappings within Kaduna and along the vital Abuja-Kaduna highway. According to a statement by the Director of Public Relations and Information of the National Air Force Air Vice Marshal Edward Gokwet, the airstrikes by Operation Whale Punch took place on Thursday, January 18th. He added that intelligence operation had identified January and his gang massing up in the area, likely preparing for another attack or kidnapping of vulnerable civilians, acting swiftly to protect the public. The National Air Force authorized the airstrikes. Air Vice Marshal Gokwet confirmed that post-operation intelligence revealed the successful elimination of January and several other members of his terrorist and kidnapping ring. He said similar airstrikes were also carried out on 20th January 2024 on confirmed terrorists and kidnappers hideouts near Chukuba in Niger State with various degrees of success. Feedback after the strikes was also positive as it confirmed that the targets were neutralized and their mobility destroyed. Collaborative efforts by the National Air Force and other security agencies will continue across all locations suspected of harboring terrorists and kidnappers. And the last story we have for you this afternoon, before you can call in and tell us what you think of all of this, is we are not averse to genuine restructuring of Nigeria. IPOB leader Kanu. Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, has declared his support for genuine restructuring in Nigeria along the lines of the 1963 Constitution. Speaking through his younger brother, Prince Emmanuel, after a meeting at the Abuja headquarters of the Department of State Services, DSS, Kanu said that a holistic restructuring is essential for the country's progress. Kanu stated, "We are not averse to the genuine restructuring of the country. We know that the country cannot grow or make progress under the current unworking unilateral structure." He maintained his demand for a referendum to determine whether the people of Biafra would like to remain part of Nigeria or pursue independence unless opponents of holistic restructuring repent. He adds, "Our position remains the same as our submission in the presence of Professor Ben Nwabeze and Evangelist Elliot Ugochukwu Uko on 30th August 2017 at the meeting with the Southeast governors in Enugu. We have no reason to add or subtract from our position 6 years ago. We reiterated that we are not opposed to a consensual but wholesome restructuring of the country along the 1963 Constitution, blaming those who disrupted a 2017 attempt by the federal government to reach a truce with him." Kanu pointed out that their actions contributed to the current insecurity in the Southeast. He said those who disrupted the 2017 peace process only engineered and activated the unpleasant experiences of the past 3 years, had they allowed the second meeting of September 15, 2017 to hold meaningfully, meaningful outcome would have been long achieved. The unprovoked invasion of my family homestead on September 14, 2017, which led to the untimely death of dozens of citizens and inspired the demise of my parents, created the unsavory atmosphere that engulfed the region moving forward. He outlined conditions for true reconciliation, including the rebuilding of the grossly marginalized Southeast and the entire Biafra land and the establishment of critical infrastructure such as a viable commercial seaport and functional cargo international airport in the region. He stressed the need for fairness, justice, and equality and reiterated the demand for a referendum as long as those opposing the restructuring of the country persist. Kanu stated, those determined on riding fellow citizens as donkeys should understand that their refusal to treat every region fairly is at the root of our agitation for justice and equality. The people of the region desire to be treated fairly and treated right. We stand by our demand for justice, equity, and fairness for all. This is our position. The IPOB leader, currently in detention at the DSS headquarters since his abduction from Kenya in June 2021, has consistently pursued the restoration of Biafra Republic through a non-violent means. Yes, there you have it. A lot to talk about on this particular edition of Political Views on Ebona, the 103.5 FM. Remember that we told you about, the turns the crisis in River State is taking now. A situation whereby the former governor of River State is now trying to warn the president about Wike's presence in his government. You remember that the former governor of River State a couple of days ago warned President Tinubu over Wike's presence in his government. A lot to talk about. What is your take on all of this? The numbers you will call and then you become part of the conversation remains 070-3445-9334 or 070-4559-2210. Let's hear from you. What do you have to say about all of this now? Hello. 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 Okay, Obinna. Okay, because when the phone on okay when I can when to put the more. Kabazeniru now. Okay.
So ọ bụghị iji were akwụkwọ ka anyị na-ekwu okwu ya. Ọ bụ nke ahụ ekwu bọọdụ ukwu mgbe ya ka asị ya na-eme onye emerigo ugboro ịbụọ meriela chie ihe ị ga-eme uwe gwa anyị na ọzada jiri akpọ dị laba ya ka anyị ekwuola nke ọ nọ n'aka ndị eji eche n'aka ndị eji agocha ejiji otu ite ụmụ ihe ndị ahụ ihe ndị ọ ga-arụ na-egosi ndị mmadụ na-abịa na-achị na ife a na-enye ike ọ bụghị na eje nke na Nnamdi Kanu nọọsụ nke a nọọsụ
mana ngwa na onwe gị nabatala okwu ekwu because na ịfụlụ the formation of okwu fụ na okwu bụkwa okwu nyanwa ga-ekwu nwa na a very good day asị talking about referendum and all of that you okwu oyokwu ọ bụrụ ihe oyokwu
ama na-ekwu okwu referendum ahụ na people will like ama na-ekwu okwu referendum people will like yes maka na ọ na-ekwu okwu referendum nke ndị ọbụla na-ekwuchacha n'isi ya nwere ike bụrụ okwu ụgwa mana ọ na-eche that referendum people will say yes somebody like me will not say just yes like that because Nnamdi Kanu have said everything before this kidnapping he has said it in any organization that he did not hear his voice ama na okwu ha na-ekwu enweghị isi like I know ya were 20 people like o kwuru ekwu ọ bụrụ nwa kwuru ya any organization ọbụla ọ na-ekwu it did not hear any of his life we should engineer it kedu ka kpata na ama mmenya ahụ okwu ka wee kpata na okwu eziokwu maka ha mana ekwuchi okwu na a na-ekwu n'abụ nke bụ eziokwu kirera dachi referendum ma ndị mmadụ ga-amaliwe yes n'ọnya nwa I cannot believe like that ha gosi m video clip ka mpụ
nsogbu otu a ka esi otu wee dị
because okwu Nnamdi Kanu kwuru ka m na-eche I can't say what I did not know ya hụ ka m na-eche gosi anyị video clip ebe ọ na DSS ekwu okwu a ka m nwa wee foto ntị gwa mgbe nwa n'okwu nke a ebe a na-abịa ajụjụ n'oyibo nke a na-erugharị ma na-eme nke a na-ele anya na-ese gịnị na-esocha steeti ọ kakwa dịpụrụ ndị na kọt ya n'oji wakwa white house so ha forget ihe ndị a na-amachara ndị a na-abụ na-emekwa ihe dị mọ nlele da nde forget a na ha nọ na pawa na-ekwu okwu na-enye ya anyị ma anya arụ ma ihe na-aga oke jikọ referendum ndị mmadụ ga-amaliwere na ọwa eziokwu maka akpọla referendum maka ihe ndị a niile kwuru ike bụra ma echere referendum asị na ọwa eziokwu na Nnamdi Kanu I can never agree like that bikozi anyị bido klip mụa wee kwete
Imam trust tukwu ma nwanne ya nwoke tu nsogbu arụ thank you so much ka anyị nabatakwa ndị ọzọ no problem ka anyị ga-anụkwazi from ndị ọzọ kịta thank you so much for joining us all the way from Nnewi my brother thank you yes let's hear from you what do you have to say about all of this hello yes good afternoon biko na-aga n'iru
nwanne nwoke bụrụ okwu kịta bụ ihe chọrọ ikwu okwu ọ bụghị pụrụ onye ọbụla pụrụ ya na-akọ ihe na-akọ ya ha na mmadụ adịghị aka na-ekwu mgbe ọbụla emekata mbụtụ na aka ji ọkọ ji kwuo nwasị aka ji ọkọ na ezinụlọ aka ji ọkọ na-atụ n'ihu ihe ị na-asị kọbara ha mbụkere ego ede ka ọ bụ ya ihe a na-eme eti na-atọ ha ụtọ esi ekwutezi elekpụrụsie mgba ha wetụrụ aghụghọ na ndị ọ na ha aghụghọ ụkwanye mmadụ ji aka ibi ya ọsọ bụgodu na n'isi isi ogologo ya onye a na onye etoka onye adịtọ ihe cheja ikwu nwa nwoke niile ka o ji wee ya nwoke ife ka adịghị ha na nwoke niile anyị na ala akwa enwe okwe isi ga-agbatara egwu ndị adịghị ya aka aka aghọ wee nwanye ife bana na anata na isi ụkwa na-anụ olu ya nke a bịaja soro ma nwanne nwoke nwanụ hapụcha mgbe o mere ka anyị mara kama anyị ma na ndị be anyị si nsi na nkwụ na nkwụ erukọtaghị ibu onwe a ga-adakọ ha akị mmadụ na-agwa sileti na-agwa na-adịrọ nso ma ọ bụ taa na-agwa na-adịrọ nso aka azụ ahụ ihe ebe okwu m na-eje bụ onye iro mmadụ na-abụ n'ime ụlọ ya ka ọ na-esi maka onye ji abụ ogbuo onye a ọrụba nwunye ya ma o were amị ya onye atọ ka egbuo ya ma ọkịta ibe ndị bụ mmadụ maka o nwere ya maka isi ọkịta ya zụ ala n'ogidi amakwadị na ọkịta n'ogidi ma ọ bụ ogidi ka isi na anyị na-esi n'oge ka leti mana otozi aka otu nwa ka bịa zụ ala ebe ahụ ebe okwu m na-eje bụ ihe nwanne ya kama ndị ekwekwere nwanne ya gwere kwere m nke onye ọzọ ọ m ga-ekwu ya nke ọzọ ihe ada eji osisi wee nọgide wee wee ka ga-abịa jee na anụda wan bụ ndị Naijiria na-amanye elu egburu ya ndị Boko Haram egburu ya ndị terọrist kedu na ebe okwu ndị agbata ha ga tụọ bọmbụ ndị airport ndị agbata ha tụọ bọmbụ na Kaduna ka ndị ebe okwu ahụ tere ọtago mmiri ọjọọ ka njụọ ndị airport kedu na abịa tụrụ ha na-azụ terọrist ebe na na-akpọtụ nke na ha tazie elu ya nwacha ma ndị mmụọ ji atụ n'akwụkwọ ma ọ bụzi ndị obodo ọzọ bịa tụọ ndị akwụkwọ mgbe ebute ndị mmadụ na Kaduna nke wiketa na mgbe mbụ ọ ya sị ka ndị gozi afọ dị meantime so otu ọzọ ikwu ọnụ kama ha sịrị na anyị ntụ na anyị ma anyị enyere nwa nke arụ ọrụ nwere ya bụ ụmụaka.
Thank you so much. Yes, let's hear from you. What do you have to say about all that is going on in our political space? Hello.
Hello,
Mama, my sister, welcome.
Again, Madam Mukega and I can request my Sabako.
Kasaba Meta.
I know what my very legend.
Gabani Ruo.
I would never know about Tinaka Common. I have no folk, no folk. That was about a half rope, half rope in his past. Makana Nnamdi Kanu. On a give you on a fan, on a guy motor, Manasel. You could die again. One man, the kind of one Nnamdi. Onye ọsọ ya kweta onye ọsọ ya ekwetara ọ Nnamdi Igbo ka ọnwụ ndị Anambra na-ege ntị ihe ọ na-ekwu ndị Imo na-ege ndị Enugu na Abakaliki na Abịa na-ege ihe ọ na-akọ ndị ọzọ dị so ihe njiri ekwu okwu abụ nwanne ya nwoke na-eji anapụta okwu n'ọnụ ya Nnamdi Kanu bụ Nnamdi Igbo ọ daziri okwu otu ori ya nwa na-apụta agbazi ya ihe okwu aka apụkwara ekwentị na ndị o ji akwa ngwa ụlọ gịnị dị ihe nka ha bụ na ka ọ gwa na ya okwu na vidio kọlụ okwu na teepu orilize ya ya fụna ka ọ na-ekwunu kedu ihe a na-emerụ LGBT a na-ekwu na anyị na-ete ebere ihe nne n'obodo ahụ Naijiria LGBT emekwu nka ya wee nwaanyị na-eso n'anyị na onye agha ji wee ṅụ mmiri ala nne ha ka anyị kwara nụ nke nne anyị nwa ha nwama ihe anyị nwakwa ihe n'ọnụ ndị na-aghọta ihe a na-emewo ndị na-awụ atụrụtụgwara egwu enye TV na fan ka anyị eso ekwugo m na Nnamdi Kanu bụ Nnamdi Igbo nwa ahụ aba ebu mmatụrụ ya ụgwọ oha so ihe ndị ekwu ewu nwanne nwoke adịghị anapụta okwu ọ na-adị agwa anyị na ọ bụghị ụmụazị ka ọ na-agwa dịka Obinna si gwa ya na ọ bụghị ihe famili ka a na-eme ihe abụghị ije famili maka ndị nwụrụ agwa ọsọ ndị famili ya nwụrụ ndị nwụrụ ụmụ aụsaida ebe a na-eme ihe strọgụl a tangod fọ nwa ya nwoke bik gwa na ebe ọ kwụsịrị so ụba na-eme tụrụbọ na ya hapịa ka ya ejide ya wee nwụfinọ so na ihe na-achịkọwa ebe aha nwụ wee ma Femi na-ekwunu ma nwanne ya nwoke na-ekwunu ha napụtazinala anyị okwu n'aka Nnamdi Igbo ha napịa ka o ji aka gwa anyị okwu na anyị na-ege ya ntị ebe ọ bụla ọ nọ gwa anyị okwu ibu mma nwa ya nwoke a sị na ọ na-emesi ikike na Finland okwukwe ọ ya anụkwu ihe o kwuru ọ ya afụdịtedi so etigharịziri anyị anya ka nna achọ ịkọwa ọzọ dị ka ibe ewu first subsidy e wepụrụ wee na-amanye elu ma ndị otu ya ma mmụọ nke Betway na aka mana ihe a kọrọ akọ maka first subsidy
the palliatives enyegasị steeti
oyibo mere nkarị na ọ bụghị ihe eji mụmụ dị ihe akpọrọ old language ọnwụ so na ihe na-akọ ebe ahụ anyị nwawo ndị ebe a nwa nwee mmanụ aha onye gị na-esevu esevu anyị ji na-esevuri ya kịta anyị nwawozi ndị na-ebe dị akwa return ọ dị first subsidy hapụrụ na aha ọ dị wee bata ọ ya akara anyị mma daalụ.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us this evening. We need to hear from you. What is your take on all of this? Hello.
Hello, Martin.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Biko Gabani Rugo.
Biko Isokumu Maka, izizi bụ maka nwanne nwoke gọvanọ Enugu steeti Namba. Maka
demolition.
Ndị mmadụ na-akọmplen nọ na-emebisi ụlọ ha. Nna mgbe ya n'okpuru otu aka esi eme ya nwee ebe ndị ọjọọ nọ inweta dị destroy ya rapụ nke ndị ọjọọ nọrọ ihe emebi total security day-to-day investigation na the whole building dị na that estate they search for that estate jee found natural research na everybody nwetara illegal adịrọ mma to destroy ya not to destroy it for everybody's property adịrọ mma na nke ahụ adịmekwa ihe ọ na-eme dị njọ jesọn ebe head out ndị ori maọbụ ndị ọjọọ ọzọ mana nke na-egosi emebie n'isiokwu m na nke abịa na ọzọ dị ka ibie dịka nwanne Kanu nta wee si na nwanne nwoke kwu adịrọ m in that of it because mmadụ na-anọ na police custody ọ bụrụ iwu na onye a ya emezido court for nwanne ekwete na nwanne ya jefu ya mmadụ na-anọ na sel mmadụ abịa ya ozie mmadụ jezie ndị bem na-enye nkwu elumite dị otu a so the man that to the person mezie because o jego there
yes
and ọ bụrụ onye niile yi mebido ebe ọ nọ abụrụ ebe isi ya na-enwe chance mgbe bido ka ọmụmụ ka eji afụghị anya ọpịpụ na ada aghọtazie okwu ndị mmadụ ihe nọ ebe mebe bido that is no the freedom to do whatever you want to do here it's not a way that freedom ịpụta mebe bido ka ọmụmụ ka gị na-akọba nkata ka eji dobe post parliament na manye that chance ka ihe dị otu a so in terms of that one ana m ekwu anyị nke niile ghọta ihe bụ gọọmenti ghọta na ọnọrọ n'afịa Yes, COVID or post on a custody, every secret, by a good year. So I had to know when I get 1 year, waiting to do because when I get 1 year, beyond author. I believe what the man said. Yes, and I want now for forward effort to release that man. I'm not going to say for that. But when I'm talking about challenge, the company by challenge, don't challenge, let's continue praying. Also, traditional books, I want to say about that. Then, although you could go, in terms of weekend,
yes, FCT, okay.
I'm on through minister who can come, but I use the minister, I hear Tango that since I'm not going, since I'm not going fine here. They should somehow imagine the president. I'm going to have a problem Abuja. They don't want to security in Abuja. On the other kind of guy, security and mandate. Two, Nnamdi, the chief of army forces, the chief of the navy and the commissioner of police, hydro police, actually an issue for more because how much the security not cover. Maybe I see money and they terrorize the whole country. One of how much so in the giving way, what will you say about those who much woman they should resign? They only be capable to work on that. So this year, and then we can roll around. I do secure. I don't so we are paying for security. I go to the city and start for the security. But here there's no security. After 1 year, 1 year, for losing and mental. The end of the matter with Army Force. I want to has to resign. It's another legacy of population and if they go war, there's different kinds of war. If they come back, one of the of people. So all I have to do also, for this can work in a regular basis now. What they go through the country.
Yes, can we build a
no one go for the prime minister. That's from here. That's from because I need that kind of president. I'm finding out what Nigeria can I want this. But always your football tonight, you didn't have to get a poverty that to governor. But again, young one who has been a governor, the prime minister. So I can Tuesday time over. Tuesday time over, we are putting on our they're going to have a mayor president. So you know what about now? You might get a battle football with the president. With the more than we are with the 2027. I will not more win the president of Nigeria. So what can so you have the Korean about now. I go for wine at 10. I pop one book. For wine at 10. Oh my God,
Dalo, my brother, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Yes, let's hear from you. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, good evening.
And a very good day. Good afternoon.
Yeah, welcome. Yeah.
Marty. Good afternoon.
Just was your Hannes only the good never said.
I am seeing this thing from another angle.
Okay.
But before then, Marty, only a member federal government of Nigeria. The ruling class. I want to hear that someone has to do Nnamdi Kanu. Yeah, father, yeah. But I tell them nowhere here. I will tell them nowhere here. We are down now. Now, for Nnamdi Kanu. Only the federal government, the ruling class, politicians, are the road.
Okay.
We are going to afford this is supposed to mean from spending Adesina speech. Also, the federal government, Buhari and others will shift to Nnamdi Kanu case to the Southeast governors and politicians. Also, the shift to there and advertising now say that this is then from the border. The meeting, I think, 2017 with Nnamdi Kanu, they had the meeting they had there. That should have been the most difficult meeting to resolve the issue.
Okay.
But all running the politicians in Nigeria can name. So na Western world, I don't carry on resolve everything. All these deaths, sufferings and pain I will not tell then the man of Nnamdi Kanu have proved all wrong. Because they were thinking that Nnamdi Kanu will ask for focus, money, and whatever. But what? He said, about the Namu, the Mona, and the ask. I don't care for anything, money, but peace, unity, and all other things that will enable life to be. They were dismayed.
Okay.
They were dismayed.
Yes, you have to put off your radio set so we can hear the echo from here. So put it up and then continue, please.
Okay, are you okay now with me?
Yes, continue now.
Okay. The moment that guy left, I wouldn't wait then out now for details. Look at the havoc here. We are not even talking about this guy's father and mother. And the old people that allow this here, who even their sprinkles, sorted the army there. Anthony Leone, Guluko. Even at last, he had Nnamdi Kanu now to hear that solve the problem. Then what was the solution? Ezioku, peace, and beginning. Everybody is talking about equal rights. But then, this peace is a chance. Bring equal rights. They only look at testimonials, but it can never come in this country. That is why there is need for referendum. And what this man is liberated, more reason. But anybody, nobody can end another here. One Nnamdi Kanu from beginning or this will show you. Now here and now for everybody. Don't we go to power? That's why people doubt whatever it is. People even prefer to hear from his lawyers and the other IPOB for officials than him. Even me myself. But to put ever the case is, see Mayor and Nnamdi Kanu or the peacefully. For years and weekends, there's someone here.
The Senate.
Matthew, or years and weekends, the budget defense.
Now got someone here. Onye bụ FCT minister na nke Abuja ka na someone here.
Oya the budget, oya the defense, oya the military, oya the Obanke also to the last place in 7 months. Who is really the one holding? You know, their military budget is not better. All you have to be fire. Man, what are we seeing from them? What are we seeing from them? Last week, I do next. Watching us die. And sometimes they even tell us to defend ourselves. On our way, pushing. And I push against insurgents. And we're going to need in our power.
So, I actually my sister. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Let's hear from you. What do you have to say about all of this? Hello.
Hello.
Yes, good evening, my brother. Kekime. No. Ebona the FM. Ebona the 103 FM. Okay, Gabaniru.
Biko achọrọ m isi ọnụ na ife banyere Igbo na nke atọ na-emetụtarị maka ndị FCT ma ọ bụ nke ọbụla. Biko o nwere njọ ka Igbo ghọta na ife banyere ije Nnamdi Kanu ọ Chineke zitere ya ọ bịa ụnyaahụ ife na-eme ya ma afọ na-ata ma nọgide na ya na abụghị afụfụ na-ata na anụ ahụ mmadụ ekpere nọgide ọ Chineke kpọtara ya. Nwanne ya nwoke na-eji ekwuchitela anyị atarọ m ịhụta ihe ọ na-achọ bụ ka arapụ nwanne ya n'ọbara ka ọ pụta mbọ ọ na-agba mana ihe ọ ga-ọrụta ọkụ na Nnamdi Kanu karịrị ezinụlọ n'ije ọ bịara. Ije ọ bịara karịrị ije ezinụlọ ọbabụ Kanu famili maọbụ ụmụnna ha. Ọ bụ Igbo ka Chineke zitere ya ka ọ zọpụta maka na Igbo nọ n'ahụhụ ngwa gị ahụhụ Igbo nọ na ya ị ga-enwe ihe akpụkpọ ike eme gị. O nwere onye amarọ na akwụkwọ anyị tabala na akwụkwọ anyị ka nọ na ya na-abụ nza ndị oyibo bịara were jikọta anyị ọnụ si na nnukwu na mgbadata ofu ihe ọ bụ nke afọ anyị bidoro. Ihe mere na Baịbụl gosiri anyị afọ anyị na-ata na ya na nke anyị ka ya ata n'iru ife niile mekwadoro ụmụ Izrel na Ijipt emekwado na anyị mana ọ na ya ghọtara. O nwere onye amarọ ụfọdụ na-agbọbịa ọ na-ata Igbo ụta ụfọdụ asị na Igbo kpọrọ onwe ha asị ụfọdụ asị na Igbo nwere kasị akpa agwa ife mmejọ Igbo abụọ na ọbụọ kelo
na-aga n'iru na nna anyị na-ekwu na-aga n'iru
n'Igbo kpọrọ onwe ha asị ma ọ na Igbo na-eje na-emepe ebe ọzọ bụ nechọ o nwere ya na-akpọ nechọ ife dịka etụnye ihe elu ọ ga-ada ijekwa na obodo ndị ọcha tụnye ya ọ ga-ada gasị nechọ so ife na-eme Igbo o ji dịka Igbo kpọrọ onwe ha asị o mere ụmụ Izrel oge ọ bụla a na-achịkwa ọchịchị ya bụ okpu na Ijipt fa niile kpọrọ onwe ha asị na-emekwu onwe ha sabụ na Mozis gara ịsọpụta gbara ya ama ugaba m akụkọ ya kọwara Fero na o gburu mmadụ ọ bịakwago ka o gbuo so fa onwe ha kpọrọ onwe ha asị nwere na nke ọbụla nwere onye amarọ na ndụwa ọ dị ụzọ ife na-atọ ị ga-eme n'obodo osi na nka ha nọ kwapụ mbụ bụ agha bịa efu ka ndị mmadụ na-akwapụ nke ọzọ bụ ọ bụrụ na ụnwụ bịa ụgani ị ga-afụ ka ndị mmadụ na-akwapụ nke ịtọ bụ ọ bụrụ na enwee bad gọọmenti efu ka ndị mmadụ si na nka ahụ were na-akwapụ ọ bụ ife a ka eyuzuru na Ijipt n'ebe ụmụ Izrel nọ ha wee kwanaga n'ime Ijipt wee bido wee rụba ebe niile tozoro okpukpe ebe niile ọ bịa bụ ife Igbo gabigara kpatara ebe niile na Naijiria Igbo na-edevelopụ ya dịkwa ụka ọkwe Exodus chapter 1 from verse 11 efu ihe na-agwa gị asị Fero wee chuzuere ndị ụmụ Izrel tax masters abụ ndị Ijipt ọ bụ ndị Izrel nwanne fa among them we are data nkora na Bible ọ bụ ịtụ akwụkwọ nsọ ọfụma so ọ bụ ndị a ka eji wee megide ụmụ Izrel ndị a na-agwa na ekwu unu ga-esichi Izrel mega nchọ na ọchịchị unu na-achịkwaba ọchịchị nchigbu a na oge achịkwaba ọchịchị nchigbu akwapụ gbaga ime Ijipt n'ezi ha batara ime Ijipt Fero wee yuzu ha they build all cities
so ka I relate to ife na-eme today okwu about restructuring you consider restructuring and at the end of the day ihe okwu about referendum kedu ka esi wee bukọ ha ncha niile na at the end of the day
ka a ga-esi bukọ ya bụ referendum and Nigeria dị already referendum ka ndị mmadụ gwara onwe fa nwanyị that chance ka emee vote letu mba ụwa nọrụ ka emee vote onye ọ na-ekwu ọnụ ya nke na ga-eso then onye ọ ga-anaba nwoke oge agbara anyị na ndị a jiri were bụrụ ofu ihe
ka anyị chịkọta ya ebe ka ndị ọzọ wee batakwa daalụ thank you so much for joining us this evening my brother at the end of the day no need for segregation we'll just talk about it the way it is being objective about the entire matter kedu nke bụ nke n'ihe okwu kedu ka isi support ya let's hear from you right about now hello yes welcome back
Thomas Peter from this month,
Gabani Rusa.
Yes, I'm making a form of ego. I know and I did group. Ian, I can live in the Vika. Only actually any movement. Only when you group will put there. Mana, Ian, other member for the Dukana, and work on our woman at home. Only now, or able to do the job when I go. Udiokwu ya ana m atụkwa mmadụ ihe kwuru uche ya mana udiokwu ya na-akacha mma ndị nọ mgbe ihe jidere sokwa na-eme ya dị ihe maka nwere ike chebe isi pụtara abịakwuo bute okwu ya esi ụzọ na ihe na-eme onye otu ọzụkọ nọchitere anya ihe na-ekekọ outside ndị Naijiria na ọ bụrụ na ya na-ata agha mkpagbu n'ihe ihe ukwu na nke ahụ ya na ọzụkọ na-arụ site n'ọrụ ya gwụnye okwu direct bifo anyị akwụsịrị ọbụla ya na-eme ihe a prempe ọ bụ ịpụta na ihe ọtụtụ na-ekwu ya nọ na prison ọ nọ na prison ọ ga-epụta nkwu okwu na ebe mmadụ ga-akwụ ya ma nye ekwu okwu ebe na akwụkwọ nke ahụ okwu ekwupụtara
so ya ka the person na-akọwalụ gị na mmadụ nwere ike ije nata onye nọ na prison ozi wepụta n'ilo na ọ na-eme anywhere in the world not just only in Nigeria anywhere in the world
ndị enye na wu azọ ya dị ihe ịmara na-adịka n'okwu ekpetụrụ no mata n'ọnya gboro ikuru aka nwekwa ike chịta ihe akwụsịrị agedọn ndị millions of people ụlọ dị ajị nri na kwe na aha akwụsị ya na-abịa m ọ bụrụ pụta na agba narịka na agba egbe onye ejebụla gịda na mmadụ zu 70 million out of ewepụ wa ọbụzọ otu kwenye pụrụ 70 million onye ọjọọ afọ mmadụ 70 million dọta na adịka okwu na adịka na okwu ihe akwụsịrị okwu na adịka ka na gwa eziokwu ọtụtụ ndị mmadụ anwụgo ya ọtụtụ ndị na-akwa n'ebe a isi ezigbo ego n'ihe a n'ụdị mgbe a na-atụ ụtụ mgbe a na-aga adịghị niile nwere ike ya na-aga ibeje chọọchị kwuo okwu ihe akara na ihe akakwa mma n'ihe a ka m na-ekwukwu ya ọgba na ụdị onye ezi okwu ma ya ayiri ije ya edoka na-atụnye ya ihe aka mma n'ihe a na-agbago
Anyway, onye ọbụla nwere right to their own opinion, not just ikwu nke gị lapụ ka onye ọzọ kwuo nke mana nsogbu adịrọ. Nsogbu adịrọ ka Oh, thank you so much for joining us again this evening. Yes, 07034459334 or 07045592210. Yes, I know maka ihe gbasara fuel subsidy. Yotago hardship persists 5 months after 72 billion naira palliative. Kedu ihe nwe ikwu n'ihe niile? Let's hear from you right about now. Hello. Hello.
Martin, good afternoon.
Yes, good evening. Welcome.
Yeah. This is Comrade Opala from Odumelea.
Okay, please, Opala, go on.
Yeah. Concerning Nnamdi Kanu, if we look at the young man, Nnamdi Kanu is in the custody of Kanu family.
Okay.
Nnamdi Kanu is leader of the indigenous people of Biafra.
Okay.
And Kalonta or whoever he may be, Abro, spokesman of IPOB. Even in Nnamdi Kanu, anyone who knows from the spokesman of IPOB will say more powerful. It is null and void. So the young man refused to understand that Nnamdi Kanu is in their custody. Nnamdi Kanu is the property of indigenous people of Biafra. He is the leader. He is the commander of indigenous people of Biafra. Just like now, Adesina Tinubu he belongs to under the custody of his family, whereby the noble president of Nigeria. When the spokesman of Nigeria or Minister of Information. Concerning Tinubu, I know all people family talk about make statement. They are only either from the Minister of Information or special advisor on media and publicity of Mr. President.
Okay.
What's local, man of Mr. President is local. So in this case, now let everybody disregard Canon, whoever it may be. So what did I do here?
Okay, apart from that, now Tinubu is reflecting Nigeria's diversity in appointments. Such thing appointments on so far. Now, Akumena Akowa na Tinubu reflect Nigeria's diversity na appointments so make it go so far. No all the diverse na ndio appointed.
Well, that is their case. They always indefensible.
Okay.
I mean the Nigerian people.
Or like the people in government.
Affected the Nigerian structural system. As regards appointment to so far. The can't reflect it. It's not reflecting. It's not reflecting anywhere. So they always like to defend indefensible, especially in this APC. This APC rule in Nigeria since Buhari regime. All handmade in line, but just rules on one percent. Make a statement. Come hard up on the Hanashi. Kahapu in front of them. But the rules of poor annual. After rules of one to no matter. So what is going to occupy? I don't know why I put down a team of them appointments in Nigeria, especially APC regime. One of the people I follow tonight, constitution of Nigeria as regard the sharing of administrative position and the rest of it. Based on in Nigeria. So behind the Nigeria is not important. Nigeria is almost important because where they push us.
Thank you so much for joining us, my brother. Yes. The numbers once again 07034459334 or 07045592210. Let's hear from you right about now. Hello. 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 Okay, please call back. Let's hear from you. What do you have to say about all of this? On this particular edition of Political Views on Airborne at 103.5 FM. Experts have on participation of citizens in community development. That is the citizens collaborating with the government to develop the community. And